All right, so that's week 2, and now you've done hopefully 14 5-minute long meditations, and you have been using this returning to a deepest sensation of relaxation from a previous meditation. Typically, at the start of this material, I begin to ask you about the sensation and ensure that people are able to return to that sensation. So what I would like you to do now is just imagine, if you will, a deepest sensation of relaxation from previous meditation. Just imagine it and sort of find it and remember that you actually know what it is that feels like. And so when you are practicing, you are consistently returning to that sensation of relaxation while you work the practice. There are times that you get swept up into distraction, sensations, emotions, and thoughts, and that is fine, and of course part of the practice. And when you realize that you're being swept up, gradually becoming more and more tense, what you want to do is just return to that sensation of relaxation again. Questions which typically come up now are usually related to people wanting to clarify you are just letting these distractions go for the 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes which you are working the practice, and you're not trying to let them go forever. We're not talking about some kind of profound healing here. We're also not talking about some cosmic experience. We're talking about just relaxation, returning to relaxation again and again. So in the second series of material that we talked about last week, we continued on with this experience of the mind as having a search for sameness. And sameness is very important quality of the mind again, because otherwise you would be constantly bathed in novel experience, and that would make it hard for you to focus. And so the mind draws on past experience to frame or understand current experience. And I gave the example of walking into a hotel for the first time and being awestruck by the shininess or the shape of high vaulted ceilings, etc. The first few times you walk through, and then gradually you're walking through and you're staring at your feet again. And this need for sameness may cause havoc in your day-to-day life, along with filtering, and both the search for sameness and the mind's need to filter and attend to threat. The likelihood of this happening increases as you are under stress. So the more stressed out that you are, the more you are to eliminate information, hone in and amplify on stressful material, and also take novel or new material and associate it or relate it to the past to understand what's going on now. And this is probably does play havoc with your life. However, for learning the meditation practice, this is actually quite wonderful. And here's why. Because when you are sitting there relaxing and a distraction, a sensation, emotion, or thought comes up, you are going to feel tense. And there may be many, many times that you're unable to do anything about that tension. People at this point, you may have had the experience of sort of being kicked out of the meditation or your relaxation practice, where you just feel like you just can't tolerate the tension the distraction brings any longer. And that's not a failure. That's the practice working. And the filtering of the mind and the search for sameness while you are practicing is very helpful, because it means that you are basically going to confront distraction or tension in your life in a very similar way, meditation after meditation after meditation. So while initially you may not be able to do anything about it, and you will be kicked out of the meditation, with practice and exposure to the meditation experience, you will become very adept and skilled at letting these distracting material go, because the mind is going to filter for you and it is going to create sameness. So you are naturally going to desensitize to this material. Meditation itself is not something which is static. It is not an experience which happens off in another room somewhere that you get to intellectually comment on. The relaxation experience or the meditation or awareness experience is one that is very alive. It is very dynamic. It is changing, and you are constantly changing. And so the feeling, the blur of sensation, emotion, and thought is not a problem. It is just a part of the experience and are necessary. And these experiences should not be interpreted as failure. In this way, distraction is not a problem. Your busy mind is not a problem. It is a doorway to a deeper meditation. When I sit down to meditate, I will look for a distraction, tension in my awareness, sensation, emotion, or thought, and attend to it because I know that once I let it go, I will find myself in a more relaxed state. So, distraction is a doorway to a deeper meditation. Relaxation is your intent, but tension is your experience while you meditate. And while you are working the practice, you are simply leaning into relaxation at every opportunity. And this is what you do again and again and again, except for when ease or the self emerges, which is when you just sit there and have that feeling of yourself, which you like. We talked about intent, and that by defining an intent, like relaxation, it's not always relaxation that we experience, but instead the barriers to that. So the idea of shining a flashlight in a room, if the flashlight or the target of the flashlight is your intent, everything that the light hits on the way to that target is an obstacle. Those obstacles did not exist until you set your intent. This is why, by setting your intention on relaxation, what it is you experience while you meditate is tension. And that's it. Having taught this practice many times to many people, inevitably the concept of enlightenment or its equivalent is brought up. So, over time I've learned it's important to address this. Enlightenment is something which is represent in every culture and every belief system. When you sit down to work your practice, at the start, expectations drive your experience. These are their own source of tension, emotion, sensation, or thought, and sometimes there is an uncomfortable unpacking of tension. Those first few moments can be very uncomfortable, and at this point, you may well have had the experience that you are being literally kicked out of your meditative practice, and this is normal. This is not a failure. If you're able to stay with it, then you will experience yourself passing through that doorway of distraction into a deeper state of relaxation. And then you're in the middle part of your practice. And here you simply let go of tension. Emotion, sensation, and thoughts occur. And gradually you let them go. And this is where you learn the practice of meditation. You do not learn meditation when you are in the state of easy self. You learn the practice of meditation as you are swept up in a distraction, identify that you are being swept up, and then let it go. This is where the change experiences are found. All you need to do is lean into relaxation. And then, of course, the end of your practice, the finish. There is no finish. Your mind will try to convince you that enlightenment or its equivalent is the practice of meditation. This expectation results in a sense of failure. You cannot fail at this practice. There is no finish. There is certainly the time where you are working the practice, And then there's time when you are not, but there is no finish line. You do not complete this practice. You just practice. The broader change experience in meditation is simple. You have two experiences of yourself. You have your day-to-day experience, which maintains a level of arousal which helps you to function in the world. And this level of arousal is created by the mind because your mind believes that you need this level of tension to keep you safe. When you are working the practice and you are in a state of relaxation, your mind experiences yourself in a new way, a way which requires very little from you to function and to be safe. The mind does not do well with these dualities, this contrast between your meditative and your non-meditative self. And so the mind tries to resolve this difference. In your meditative or relaxed state, it requires less energy for you to simply be in this world. It is adaptive for your mind to acknowledge this experience and gradually begin moving towards it. It is an echo between the meditative and the non-meditative self, back and forth. Constant exposure with the meditative self gradually, over time, with practice, results in you becoming more and more like your meditative self. That sense of ease, that sense of calm that you're looking for. This is the echo. Your mind works to resolve the difference between the meditative and the day-to-day self. Gradually, you become more like your relaxed self with practice and exposure to the meditative experience. This is because it requires less energy for you to be at ease. Your mind has gotten used to requiring a degree of tension to function in the world you live in. Many times and in many ways, this level of tension is unnecessary because you are not truly confronted with an immediate threat. As you resolve tension, relaxation is restored and perspectives shift. You begin to find alternatives that require less from you, are easier. A way to live that requires less work and energy. This is the echo. In many ways, the change that you experience is very practical. What we're really talking about here, simply put, is a tendency towards ease and the ability to attend to tension and distraction with efficiency and skill. It is true that how you change may not be apparent until looking back. I commonly hear people say, I used to get so bent out of shape by this kind of thing. You may find that distractions will repeat themselves over time. Initially, you may be unable to do anything about the distraction. It may well drive you from your meditation. This still happens to me, and has probably already happened to you, where you're literally sitting there and you cannot tolerate the meditative experience anymore. Your mind becomes swept up in its problem solving, and you find yourself walking away from the meditation. This is not a failure. Because of how the mind works, in its search for sameness, and the mind's elimination of material through filtering, gradually, the tensions and distractions you experience while you practice will become familiar and accessible to letting go for the 5, 10, or 15 minutes of your practice. It is important to remember that you are not letting these tensions or distractions go forever while you meditate. You are simply releasing them for the duration of the meditation. Over time, being relaxed will extend beyond your meditative practice and become a part of your everyday life. Continuing with this idea of things being practical, I want to share with you a skill, frankly, a fairly advanced meditative skill of shifting. Shifting is really just a way of returning to a meditative state very briefly in your day-to-day life. If you think back to what we talked about with the echo, you now know that change occurs as you bounce back and forth between regular consciousness and the meditative state. I want you to have a way to access your practice easily. I want you to be able to utilize the state of ease or relaxation while you're working, talking, and moving about your day. Shifting is a way to bring your practice into your day-to-day life. Shifting does sabotage the earlier learning rules of keeping your practice distinct and consistent, because what I'm going to ask you to do is begin using this technique a few times a day shortly after you practice, within a half an hour actually. Shifting is literally done in the moment by intentionally recreating briefly your deepest sensation of relaxation from a previous meditation. And I want you to do this within 30 minutes of your last meditation. Do not do this while you're operating a motor vehicle. So that shifting can remain empowered, you need to continue to use your full basic meditation daily. And I would like you to log your shifting experience. So what I would like you to do right now is take in a breath, and as you exhale, remember and experience, or simply imagine experiencing, that deepest sensation of relaxation for a brief moment. Let yourself return to it, even if just in moderate degrees. Give over to that feeling of relaxation, just for a moment. And that is a shift. Thought forms are a concept. They're not real. It is simply a way of conceptualizing the experience that you have while you're working your practice, and in specific, the sensations, emotions, and thought that confront you and lead to tension. So consider this. A thought form is a three-dimensional construct within your experience while you meditate and has three components. A perspective. Misinformation based on a perspective which necessarily provides limited information, and then an understanding that you generate from the information your perspective allows. So again, keeping things practical. You are sitting in a room, or you are in a place, and I want you to describe the place that you are in. Use as few or as many words as you want. Now imagine it with me, if someone were opposite you, they would likely describe this room very differently. For one thing, it's unlikely you described what is behind you, but the person sitting in front of you would describe what was behind you because it would be facing them. Their perspective defines their experience. Their perspective makes accessible to them very specific pieces of information. And because they're not able to draw in all of the perspectives, and as a result, all of the information, some of the information they have is incomplete, and in this way is misinformation. Because of this, the understanding, the assumptions that they generate based on the information that they have are limited. Misinformation and the subsequent understanding result in tension between your perspective and what is a whole reality. Although I'm not going to spend a lot of time on thought forms right now, introducing you to this concept will be very useful going forward and will empower you in some of your practice as we progress through the weeks. I would like to discuss with you some things about perspective. All knowledge of the world, others, and yourself is based on perspective. And we can acknowledge that our understanding that we generate based on this perspective is never complete, but is driven by perspective. And in this way, it includes misinformation and assumption. When we relax, our awareness expands, and broader awareness adds information. It's why sometimes when you're meditating that you begin to see things differently. Working with this concept of thought forms and perspective, by acknowledging sensation, emotion, and thought as a thought form may help you to soften your perspective, and in this way make it easier for you to let it go for the 5, 10, 15 minutes of your practice and move towards or lean into relaxation. What we're talking about here, this change process, is that your baseline of arousal is going to change over time. In a practical way, without really trying at it, you are going to realize that you require less and less arousal or tension to function in your day-to-day life. Your mind may try to convince you that relaxation is the practice of meditation. It is not. Relaxation is simply your intent, tending to distraction, tension in this practice, and the gradual narrowing disparity between the relaxed and the non-relaxed self is the change process. And through this, over time, and exposure to the meditative self, your baseline of arousal decreases. Your homework for this week is simple. I want you to continue to practice the basic practice you have learned daily for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then daily within 30 minutes of your meditation, I want you to practice the shift. And the shift involves intentionally recreating for a moment a deepest sense of relaxation from any previous meditation. Remember to log your experiences. For the time being, keep your practice committed and personal. I need you to do the prep work to ensure that you are ready to sacrifice the time needed to learn this practice. That is 5, 10, 15 minutes a day. And I want you to maintain your practice as personal. I want you to prevent yourself from discussing what you are learning in this class and what is happening while you meditate. Log your experiences instead. Here's why. When you talk about your meditative experience to someone else, you're going to be acutely aware of whether or not they are understanding what it is you are sharing with them. And you will augment, change, what it is that you are saying to them so that they can understand. In probably a genuine way, you want them to get what it is you're telling them. But as you add words and descriptions to your own very personal experience, you may well complicate something which is very simple. When this class is over, at the end of the 5 weeks, you can talk about this practice in any way you want to. But for right now, I want you to keep your practice personal. So it's just a continuation of what you've been doing with this sensation-based meditation. I'm going to guide you again through the beginning. Of course, I don't want you to reuse this through the week. I want you to get the results you're going to get because this will promote independence and confidence with the skill. So as you relax, your awareness is going to expand. And sensation, emotion, and thought are going to come towards you as if you're passing someone on the street. Recognize the distraction for what it is, and then just continue on relaxing. If you find at some point that you become attached to the distraction, becoming tense yourself, don't be rigid or strict with yourself. Simply return to that deepest sensation of relaxation. Some people use an exhalation to help them along, and you just continue returning to that sensation for the duration of the meditation. Again, you're not letting these distractions go forever. You're just letting them go for the 5, 10, 15 minutes that you're working the practice. So the first step with any meditation is to normalize. Just feel out where you are. Where is your body in the chair? Where is your bum on the chair? Where are your feet on the floor? Where are your hands? What direction are your eyes facing? Where is your tongue in your mouth? And emotionally, do you feel happy, mad, sad, glad? Not needing to make any kind of adjustments. You're good as you are. Just to be aware of what is. And then cognitively, are you alert? Are you tired? Are you confused? Are you clear? No need to change anything. Just want you to know where you're at as you start. And then begin to recreate, imagined or otherwise, that deepest sensation of relaxation and give over to it. And listen to my voice. Just this once. Let go. Give in.